Welcome to On the Block. I'm Ed Wilkinson, and today we're talking with Father Andrew Kim, who's the pastor of St. Paul Chonghasang Parish in Flushing. It's an all-Korean parish, Father Kim, right?
Yep.
So you were born in Korea.
Yes, right.
You're not a native-born Brooklynite. You were born in
No.
Korea, and when you grew up in Korea, you were not a Catholic. Tell
Not
us
at
a little.
all.
Tell us.
Yeah. So I was born in family of two different religion. My father was Confucianist and my mother was Buddhist. And so religiously, my mother was stronger than my father. So I grew up naturally as a Buddhist.
Uh-huh.
So up until high school, I went to temple regularly, and it my mother was devout Buddhist, and that was it. And so when I went to college, that's the difference. I was away from religion. Doesn't mean I don't believe in God, I don't believe in any religion, but it's mostly secularized at that time. Then I went to the military service, which is mandatory in Korea, and 2.5 years later discharged. And that time my mother, came to the States. So I came to New York, 1986, to visit my mother, and mysteriously, as my mother at that time became a Catholic in the St. Paul Chonghasang, when that community was in Regal Park, Our Lady of Angeles. So my mother asked me to enroll the RCIA, and I was kind of reluctant to do so, but mother says.
So you
So
did it.
yes, right.
Well,
right.
tell us a little bit more about growing up in Korea, though, because, and as you said, you went to mandatory military
yes,
service.
right, uh-huh.
What was that like? Was that a tense time between the North and the South?
Always tense in when you go to DMZ. So but my time was kind of a real peaceful time. But since it is the military, it's military. Either it's a peaceful time or tense time, always kind of tension inside of the camp. So most of the Korean youngs, they don't want to go to the military service,
Right.
but it is mandatory.
What is
So,
it, 18? Age 18?
Usually 18 and up.
Okay.
So if you go to college, then usually finish first 2 years.
Uh-huh.
That's the right time to go to join the military, and then you serve 2.5, or then right now I heard the 2 years,
Uh-huh.
and then come back and then finish the rest 2 years of college.
Did you interact with American soldiers at all while you over there?
When it was kind of drills with the American soldiers, but I saw not directly, not
uh-huh.
directly.
Yeah.
But we do have the same field and to do the training, but I never met any American soldiers.
Well, what is the state of the Catholic Church in Korea? Because it's a small minority in Korea, right?
Yes, right. It's kind of around, I believe it's around the 10%, but it's very small, relatively the Protestantism and Buddhism. But the voice of Catholicism, Catholic Church in Korea, is very loud. It's also not simply loud. I rephrase that as respectful. People respect Catholic voice because in the 70s and 80s, when the Korea was under the dictators, as the Catholic Church was the front line to help and force the democratic movement.
So you were aware of the Catholic Church then?
Yes,
over there,
right,
but,
uh-huh.
But you were never attracted to join the Catholic Church over there?
Because nobody asked me. And at the same time, I was a Buddhist. I was enjoying my religion that time.
Yeah.
But socially, I respected the Catholic Church because of what they're doing, what they're saying. The action and words were together and are leading the social power.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what are the types of things that the church speaks out about?
So the importance of the democratic world is that rather than against the dictators, first of all, and so the society was under the very sort of a fear of a dictator, yet the church was brave enough to speak up. And then at the same time, in terms of demonstrators, as a kind of the church, as a kind of provided a sanctuary for demonstrators. So they went out to church, a street in Seoul, and so they pushed back. They always go to the Myeongdong Cathedral. There's a big front yard. That's a gathering place. Even dictators, they respected that sanctuary, so they couldn't go in or they couldn't arrest anybody. So they gathered around. That time, the Cardinal Stephen Kim, as kind of their welcomed those demonstrators and encouraged them and then provide food and shelter for them.
Yeah. Korea is an interesting place because the Christian faith came to the Korean Peninsula really through lay people, right? The lay people brought it. Can you tell us a little bit about that, about how the Koreans became Christians?
Yeah, there was a very interesting, it's well known now, but the Koreans kind of the way of confronting or encountering Catholicism as kind of knowledge for the Western world is through China. So they got the old, theology books, sort of the Bibles, already translated in Chinese at that time, and so they kind of able to read it. So they are kind of a strong curiosity on the Western world. So they call themselves, this one is a Westernology, if you will, to learn how the Western world through these Catholicism. So then realized it is not just kind of a Western society, rather it is a religion. So kind of they began to take it seriously as a religion. So they assigned themselves a bishop, priest, and so it's very interesting.
There's a big feast day on the Korean calendar for the Korean martyrs. There's
sure.
a very big. Who were those first Korean martyrs? Were they the early first Christians who brought the faith?
Early ones is kind of actually in the middle of it. Early ones in the beginning when the Catholicism became a religion in Korea. So kind of in the beginning they were very welcoming it. So kind of learn more about Western world. So there's a good thing. But until they feel intimidating and threatened these kind of current as what is kind of noble people there, so the political structure. So that's why they began to persecute Catholicism. And so the beginning, so the persecution wasn't strong enough until politically in charge. So then it became harsh.
Yeah. And the parish where you serve now, St. Paul Chong Ha Song, was he one of the early martyrs?
Yes, right.
That's right. So
he's the first seminarian in Korea, sort of, and then martyred.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break now, but when we come back, we're going to talk about you coming to America and finding the Catholic Church. You're watching On the Block. I'm Ed Wilkinson. Stay with us. We're coming right back. Welcome back to On the Block. We're talking today with Father Andrew Kim, who serves a large Korean parish out in Flushing. Father Kim, we talked a little bit about growing up in Korea, and you were not a Catholic at the time, but then your mother preceded you here in the United States.
Right.
Why did she come to the United States?
Because my sister came to the States in 1973 first, so that's why my mother visiting her, and then those days it's easy to get green cards. So there's kind of my mother wanted to give us, my two sons, myself and my young brother, so give a chance to see the America if we like it or not. So that's why she came to the States before us.
Yeah. So you finished up your military service, and is that when you came to the United States?
Yes, right. Yeah. Before I went back to the college, I had a little time. So that's why I came to the States.
Yeah. And you came here and you found out that your mother had become a Catholic.
Yes, right.
How did that happen?
It's a big surprise. And she that's very kind of, my brother-in-law is a devout Catholic, so he's a very nice guy. And so my mother, she came to the States. She kind of insisted to go to the Buddhist temple. At that time, it was one temple in Manhattan. So my brother-in-law took her to the temple in the morning, and then afternoon, and brought her back to Long Island, the house, and then he and his whole family go to the Regal Park, Korean Community Catholic Church. So he did every Sunday diligently. So my mother felt sorry. So kind of then she didn't want to go to temple anymore. At that time, kind of my brother-in-law and my sister see the some chance to kind of move her mind. So then they brought that time the sister, we have the Korean nuns there, and brought her they invited her to the home, and then that nun and my mom talked each other many times. Finally, she gave in.
Well, what did you think when you found out she became a Catholic?
I said, why? And then it was, I think she became a Catholic is one thing, but kind of surprisingly, she said, you have to join the RCIA. So, wow, she never forced me any religion. So I didn't mention that before. It's when I was in the elementary school, my best friend was Protestant, his family. So he asked me to go to Protestant church, Presbyterian. So on this Sunday, I just went to church. So then, for the Sunday collection, I always ask my mom, give me $1. And she always said, never resisted as any religion is important belief. That's what she said. So she respected the freedom of religion, faith, but all of a sudden she became Catholic, and you have to be Catholic. That's why.
So that was a change, huh?
Yeah, there was a kind of a big shock actually, but it's kind of at the same time when she says strongly that insists that religion, there's something about it.
Yeah. Well, what did you think as you were going through RCIA and you were learning about the faith? Was this a revelation to you, or did you know a lot about the church already?
No, it's actually a revelation. It's a total different. So the learning it, but as I said, it's kind of there must be something, but it wasn't me. So that's why I reluctantly went to the RCIA classes every Sunday. That going to church was a family event, so so I had to go. Luckily, I became Catholic, knowing nothing, knowing nothing. So I was baptized and confirmed, and still knowing nothing. And I was kiddingly, I was the one who always stand back of the church, do like this, and then after communion, you go out of church.
But you're a priest today, so where did that idea ever come from? I mean, when did you say to yourself, geez, maybe I'll be a priest?
That's I started as a joke. I believe and during the consecration, I still did stand in the back of the church like this and watching like this, observing. And during the consecration, so I said to myself, it's cool to be a priest. That was in the college. But somehow, mysteriously, that thought never left. It's growing.
Yeah. And were you in school at this time? Were you
studying?
studying?
I went to the Queens College studying accounting that time.
Okay. And when you came out of Queens College, did you work for a while?
Yeah, I worked at the credit union at St. Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, so I worked for 2 years. So even 2 years in the college, I thought about the priesthood. I mean, it was a joke, but it's kind of getting serious.
Who did you talk to? Did you go to somebody and say?
No, I never talked to anybody.
Really?
It was kind of always in me. I was afraid that somebody discovered that. Even my sister always kind of saying oh yeah, I wish you become a priest. I said, I don't know. Hiding that one.
Yeah.
But as a Father John noticed that one day, as kind of last day, and so one day he asked me to drive him somewhere, and then he said, Andrew, I think it's time. So I was kind of, time for what, Father? You know. I said, how do you know? I know. It's a time for you to go now. There was a time.
Yeah. He was a very popular priest, Father Thomas Jung, right? He was stationed at Our Lady of the Angelus, and he led the Korean community from there, right?
Yes.
And he was very popular among the Koreans. And
still, we remember him. Yeah, he died in the July 12th in the no, 97, year before my ordination. We still remember him.
Yeah.
So the July 12th, sort of locally beatified. So we always have celebration. We visit his cemetery in St. Charles, Long Island. It's kind of still we remember him.
So you decided to go study. Where did you have to go? Did you go to Douglaston then?
Yeah, Douglaston first. We go pretty. We studied on philosophy first.
You had to catch up on what you had missed. What
Exactly,
you didn't have, right?
exactly.
Requirements for the major seminary. So how was that for you? Were you fluent in English at that point?
No. I still remember I had the first interview with Monsignor John Strinkowski, who was the rector of a seminary. And so the first question, they said this, and he noticed that already kind of my English wasn't good at all. So he said, what's God like? Who is God? And then there was a question. So I said, God is like a cup of tea in winter time. And then he was like, what? So do you explain what does that mean? And so wintertime cold, you come home, then it's kind of you have a cup of tea, and with that warmth, I feel that's God. I said, all right.
So he said, you better go study some philosophy.
And then after that interview, I thought kind of he wasn't gonna accept me. So kind of, gee, why did I say that?
And what was the time like in Douglaston then?
Douglaston was a really fun time. You know, it's challenging. Studying philosophy, 36 credits within a year. I mean, the English wasn't good at all. But you know, my classmates, they helped me a lot in terms of writing the notes and in the reports and speaking English and everything. It was kind of.
Well, that had to be tough because you go into class in English and you're listening to English. I mean, how did you get by that? You knew enough?
That's the miracle.
That's the miracle.
Yeah, that's the miracle. How did I do that? It's kind of. And it's how did I? Then a year later, there was a time to move up to Huntington.
Yes.
So and professors and then they had a meeting, special meeting for me. I said the Andrew's English is not good at all. So it's okay. They want me to stay there one more year. The problem is that they have no program for me. So my argument is this. This is I passed all these grades, all classes, all the BA. So I didn't even get a C. So why not going there?
Yeah.
So let me go with my classmates.
Okay.
I'll do my best.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to pick up the story from there. We're talking with Father Andrew Kim and how he struggled through the seminary. So stay with us. We're coming right back. Welcome back to On the Block. I'm Ed. This is Father Andrew, and we've been talking about your time in the seminary, and you're in Huntington now, and you're studying theology, and reluctantly, maybe on the part of some of the people of the faculty, but you got yourself there. So, how did you manage with your English then? Did your English skills begin to pick up as you were in the theology?
Douglaston was kind of textbook, and the help of my classmates is so important. But as a kind of writing is much easier than speaking and hearing, because in Korea, the learning English is always about the reading and writing. So the listening and speaking was a tough thing. But as Douglas was okay because we just studying philosophy. So that time, Monsignor Connie Dietz, kind of, he was academic dean, so kind of, he helped me a lot, in a sense. And then he's the one who helped me to move up to Huntington.
Really?
Because he was the academic dean, his words were so important. And then he said, I think it's kind of, Andrew's English is not good, but it's the reading and writing, and then the report was good enough. Why don't you give him a chance to move up? And then let him learn English over there. So that's why I went up to Huntington.
Monsignor Dietz was a great teacher too, wasn't he? Oh, he was a great teacher.
I love him.
So how did you enjoy your years then? You had to go a 5-year program then,
yes, right.
I mean, it must seem like a long time when you're going out there and you said 5 more years.
Yes, right. So one time we had the refectory. We had a table. I was sitting with the Bishop Daly. This is there. And so he talked about vocation. And so one of the seminarians says, Bishop, the reason we don't have enough vocation, but it's because it is too tough and too long. And the bishop, and so he smiled and said, I agree with you. It's kind of long and tough.
Yeah.
But I said, I don't want the bad as priest. I just want one good priest who will save the church. So we just kind of shush.
One of the years while you're out there is that you have to go a pastoral year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to go work in a parish.
Right.
Where did you get assigned?
I went to St. Helens in Howard Beach.
Nobody speaks
Can
Korean
you,
there.
can you imagine? This Korean boy went to the all Italian Baptist.
How did you fit in there?
Very interesting. I mean, already I was in the seminary 2 years.
Yeah.
So at that time, my English was much better.
Yeah.
So because I had a special training in the seminary. And so in the seminary, it was who was his last name? It was Paul, Mr. Paul, who teaches Spanish to seminarians. And one day he heard me reading during the mass, the first reading, and then he went to the rector and says, I can't believe that his English so bad. How did he become a priest? So then he said, so give him to me, I'll teach him. That's what he said. So I had an extra English class.
No, from
then there was a
somebody who
one-on-one.
taught Spanish.
Yeah, and then he taught me with the just sound of a T, and then it took 1 hour.
Wow.
He said, no, Andrew, T, no. And then all my classmates heard it in the next classroom. And the break time, he came to my classroom and says, oh, poor Andrew, how are you going to survive here?
So
Anyway.
you managed to get through and you got ordained on time.
Yeah.
And what was ordination day like? What do you remember about the ordination ceremony?
I remember, I just feel good.
Yeah.
It's a kind of fulfilled.
Yeah.
And the Bishop Daly kind of laying on his hands on me was a kind of touching.
Sure.
That was it.
And you got assigned to where?
St. Ephraim's.
In Daika Heights, Bay Ridge, Daika Heights.
Daika Heights, Bay Ridge. I think they prefer to her the Bay Ridge. Anyway, and so that was my first parish, and then pastor was Mr. Peter Kane. And then so I was can say that it's kind of first pastor was important. Then I say yes, it's kind of I'm lucky to have Peter Kane. So Peter Kane was super duper.
And how did the people accept you? You're ordained to serve the church. You're not ordained just to serve Koreans.
Right.
You're Korean, but you serve the church.
I think it's kind of, I was the only Asian over there. And so very much whole 99.99 is the sort of Irish, Italian, and white parish. So I was kind of, and so one part is, this is funny thing, is I went there in July 10th. And that week, Peter was on vacation. I was alone. And then I think it's Wednesday, back of the church, they had a choir practice. So I went there. I went up, and the back of the choir, I just kind of waiting for them to finish for the practice song, standing there. And then one lady like this just kind of kept looking at me. This is I just kind of standing quietly stand. And the song finished. I went up the front. Hello, everybody. I'm the new kid on the block. It's kind of, I guess. And then that lady, and then, you priest? I thought he was kind of Chinese food delivery man. What? And then she was wondering who ordered Chinese food here. I was like, what is this going on? I said, I'm Father Andrew. They was kind of in the beginning. They couldn't, they accept me, but it kind of very, kind of sort of awkward. Who is this guy? But soon enough, I became their family. They took me as a family. And it was kind of, all my heart is in St. Ephraim's.
And now you're the pastor of the major Korean parish out in Queens. How are we doing as a church, the Korean church? Are we alive and well? I mean, we have Koreans throughout all the dioceses.
Yeah, so they're busy, super busy. So every day, so the parking lot is filled with cars. People come in and out, and different activities and religious activities or social activities. And so so that was busy. And the Sunday is like from morning, early in the morning to the late afternoon. So the other day, the Bishop Sanchez was there for the youth confirmation. It's kind of, wow, this church is so busy. There's people everywhere.
People stay around after
Yes,
Mass,
right.
right? They have socialized and they get together. And people come from all over to your church, right?
Yes, right. It's not only from Flushing areas, and all part of Queens, and some of them from Brooklyn, and large part from Long Island, and some part from even Connecticut and New Jersey.
Fascinating story, Father Kim, and thank you so much for sharing it with us. And thank you to Father Kim for being with us today. I hope you learned a lot about the Korean Church and the Koreans here in our diocese. Thanks for being with us. See you again next time.